Welcome, everyone. Today's explainer is going to take us on a really fascinating journey into the unexpected. We're diving into how a simple, deliberate shift in design can radically transform a space, even a space as tiny as a fish tank. Our guide for this exploration is a brilliantly intriguing little artifact. It's a June 2026 blog post titled Notes on Fishkeeping, Part 265, Sunset in the Tank, and it was written by a super observant hobbyist named Ang. Ang captures this exact moment of pure design inspiration that completely subverts our typical expectations of what an aquarium should look like. So get comfortable and let's explore how a simple color shift can literally create a whole new world. Okay, let's dive into this. What I absolutely love about Ang's documentation here is just how incredibly relatable this setup is. Think about the last time you went to a hobby store, right? Maybe it was during a long holiday weekend. You walk in hoping to find a spark of new inspiration. But as Ang humorously points out in this quote, it's exactly the same stock from, quote, quite some moons ago. Ang is just strolling the aisles, feeling kind of bored and uninspired, merely looking to pick up some basic, mundane fish-keeping supplies. It's that universal feeling of a routine, slightly tedious errand. But as we all know, it's often in those exact moments of routine boredom, when our brains are just sort of idly wandering, that we're actually most primed to notice something truly out of the ordinary. And that is exactly what happens next. You see, this micro moment of walking through aisles of stale, unchanging stock perfectly sets the stage for a massive, macro-level discovery. Ang's attention is suddenly arrested by a particular aquascape that completely breaks the rules. I mean, it throws standard design conventions right out the window. We're moving from a totally mundane search for tank filters and fish food to an unexpected masterclass in setting an atmosphere. It's a fantastic reminder that art and inspiration don't just live in museums, They're waiting right there for us, in the aisles of local supply shops, provided someone had the vision to build something totally different. And this brilliantly illustrates the massive contrast between expectations and reality that caught Ang's eye in the first place. Think about the industry standard. When you picture a fish tank, what comes to mind? A blue backdrop, for sure. That blue is intentionally used because it gives off a calm, serene, and inherently utopian vibe. It's supposed to look like a pristine, untouched slice of nature. But the tank Ang discovered completely inverts that expectation. The creator swapped out that serene blue for a striking, vibrant orange-red background. The immediate result? A dramatic, highly cinematic sunset-like effect. It literally stops being a mere fish tank and becomes a stage. It's no longer peaceful, it's dramatic. It's a total subversion of what an aquarium is traditionally supposed to make you feel. The impact of this color choice is so profound that Ang immediately connects it to the visual style of the film Blade Runner 2049. And by bringing in this specific pop culture anchor, Ang helps us instantly grasp the mood. We aren't looking at a happy, bubbling, utopian coral reef here. No way. We are looking at something deeply dystopian. It's isolated, it's moody, it's bathed in that thick, artificial orange-red light that feels almost apocalyptic. It's the exact opposite of utopian lighting. It really goes to show how powerful color theory is. Simply changing the background paper or the light bulb behind a tank completely rewrites the emotional narrative of the physical space. So the crucial point is, to fully understand how the physical materials interact with that dramatic lighting, we need to look at what Ang calls the hardscape. Now, for those of us who aren't deeply embedded in the aquascaping hobby, the text defines hardscape beautifully. Basically, these are the non-living, structural materials used to create the foundational layout. We're talking about the rocks, the wood, the structural bones of the design. This isn't about the fish and it isn't about the living plants. This is all about the architecture of this miniature world. And the way the hardscape is utilized in this specific tank is every bit as unconventional as the lighting itself. Let's move to and see how this builds out the overall vibe. Look at these specific characteristics of the hardscape Ang documented. Instead of a thriving, lush underwater jungle, we have these branching structures that are deliberately kept highly sparse. Ang actually uses the word skeletal to describe their appearance, which absolutely hits the nail on the head. There is a complete absence of the regular, dense, lush plants you'd normally expect to see in a high-end aquarium. When you combine those barren, skeletal, branching structures with that heavy orange-red Blade Runner lighting, wow, the dystopian theme is amplified perfectly. The sparse nature of those physical materials allows the dramatic light to completely dominate the space, creating long shadows and a palpable feeling of an empty, beautifully desolate world. But here is where Ang's blog post takes a really interesting turn. Despite observing all these brilliant, highly specific design choices, Ang admits something totally fascinating. The aquascaper's true artistic intention remains a complete mystery. We actually have no idea why the creator built the tank this way. And honestly, that's kind of the beauty of interpreting niche art out in the wild, isn't it? We get to see the final visual result, but the blueprint in the artist's mind is totally hidden from us. Did they set out to make a cinematic sci-fi statement? Or are we, as observers, just projecting our own pop culture mentalities onto their work? Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that it leaves us with one final, fantastic question to ponder. Looking at this skeletal, orange-drenched scene, is this a finished, deliberate masterpiece focusing heavily on form and negative space? Are they intentionally rejecting lush plant life to make a bold artistic statement, or is this simply a work in progress? Is it just an empty, unfinished canvas sitting in a pet shop waiting for a shipment of green aquatic plants to arrive next week that will completely ruin that dystopian vibe? It's such an incredible thought exercise. A mundane errand transformed into a deep question about art and intention. So what do you think? Does the original intention even matter if the final visual result is this inspiring? Keep that question in the back of your mind the next time you encounter a striking design in an unexpected place. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep your eyes open for inspiration and keep learning.